Hey, welcome to 28 Days and Beyond,
where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture.
That's right. My name is Amari Johnson.
And I'm Charisma. Welcome back for another awesome show.
Here we are, here we are.
Yes, we are. And what are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about diversity on college campuses.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, did
So-
you go to a diverse college?
They're working on it.
Okay, so the answer is no. Right.
When I went to Cabrini for undergrad, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
But I pretty much knew all of the black and brown students on campus because there weren't that many of us.
Got
So
you.
we had our own little community.
How did that shape your experience, you think?
I've definitely felt like for the most part, it kind of created our own community, our own space, and there was like a unspoken camaraderie just because it was like we felt the need to band together a bit more. They also had me in the international advisory, which was interesting when I first got there. So yeah, that's a story for another day.
You're a citizen of the world.
I am.
Right, there it is. Yeah.
What about you? Where'd you go?
I went to Columbia University,
Okay.
and it was it diverse? No, not at all.
No?
But we were in New York. You know what I mean?
So-
So I could kind of take advantage of everything that was happening off of campus and in the surrounding areas. So, you know, in that sense, I think that people have different values, right? They're looking for different things where they go. Some people want a place that they call diverse where they could have friends and have classmates from all different, you know, and other folks are saying that they want to go somewhere where they feel affirmed. You know, culturally or socially or whatever have you. One of the things that we see happening in society, which we both know, and I'm sure our viewers know, is really nothing new, but I think with social media we're able to see more of it, is that students on high school campuses and college campuses, black students, are suffering from, you know, instances of racism or, you know what I mean, just feeling a general sense of hostility on campus as not conducive to their, you know, studying there or their being there socially or whatever have you. What do you make of that?
Unfortunately, I feel like instances like these, we're just hearing about them more now. I know that they've been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I've been hearing stories like this forever, but just I feel like now they're being given a bigger platform to kind of be out there for more people to know that they're happening. I think that because of that, the punishments and the consequences are starting to be more in line with where I think they should be, because you're spending that amount of money, no matter where you go, you're spending a great deal of money to go to an institution to further your education. And because of that, you should feel safe and shouldn't be reminded of, you know, your ethnicity or where you come from in a way that's going to take away from your ability or your belonging to be there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad the word is getting out there, but.
But you said, you know, the punishment is in line. What do you think would be, so punishment is always a response to something. What are some proactive steps that you think universities can take to, you know, sort of quell these instances?
I think education. I think
that's fitting. Isn't it?
Yeah, in these instances, you know, exposure a lot of times can help prevent people from having these biases, because most biases come from people not really knowing or having any experience.
Right.
But we'll talk about that a little bit more. We have to take a little bit of a break here on 28 Days and Beyond, but we'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. And right now, we are fortunate to be joined by Madiah Gant, who is a student at Villanova University.
Yes, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
So we've been talking about diversity, which is, you know, a very broad topic, but we want to hear from you kind of what your experience has been at Villanova so far.
Yeah, so I've been at Villanova for like 3 years now, and I think diversity is like an interesting concept here, because you come in freshman year, like as a first-year student, and they take you through new student orientation, and there's like this one really powerful moment where we go through the diversity skit, and I know for me, like that was like the most important part of new student orientation, and I was like, wow, Villanova is like so socially aware. Like these are the people I want to surround myself around. And then you get out of like new student orientation, no more diversity skit, and you're like, holy moly, like this place is intense. Holy moly, exactly.
Tell us about this diversity skit.
Yes, please.
Right, so diversity skit is, it's essentially like, there's a bunch of like skits that go on based on like students' experiences. So we base it off of students will come and tell us their stories, and they'll give us permission to sort of like perform them for new students to sort of see. So it sort of breaks down this idea that like people come to Villanova and think that it's like this like great place where nothing bad happens. We like to call it the Villanova bubble. So during the diversity skit, we kind of try to like break that down and show people that like things that like happen on the outside world also happen on our campus as well. And so we act out these stories of like discrimination based on like the different isms. And yeah.
What's the reception been like as far as the students that are coming in after seeing, you know, some of these incidents and knowing that they were based in actual events?
So we definitely had mixed reviews. It's like a mixture between like people coming up at the end and saying like, this is what I needed to see. Like I want to get involved. Like, thank you so much. Like, I had no idea this existed on campus. And then like the guys, like before the skit even starts, that's like, I don't want to watch this shit, you know? So it's like, there's people who like directly think like we're targeting them versus like people who think this is like the best thing in the world. And people who don't care. So we get a lot of mixed reviews.
But now, so you said that, you know, but once, from your experience after the diversity skit and it, you know, kind of settled into the life on campus, you realized that that wasn't a reflection of the mentality of the campus. What kind of things have been in place to sort of help you deal with those challenges?
So Villanova is like not like the best proponent for like diversity work. I think when you look at sort of like the examples of the people that they have in office, like we have like Dr. Nance, who's like an amazing, incredible woman. But for like her whole time here, she was a one-woman show, and you could just imagine what it's like to have a chief officer of diversity and inclusion, a party of one, right? So it's like, what's really getting done on campus? That's always something I gotta think about. But I think that there are great people in positions, but severely underfunded on our university. And that's just my take on it, which I think says a lot to what our university values. So it's more a picture. They're willing to like make the face or the appearance of like wanting to work toward these issues, but they're not willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Do you think having things like the diversity skit are working towards the goal of really having more inclusion and having people be more prepared for coming onto a campus like Villanova?
Yeah, I think that diversity skit does a lot for incoming students, and I like this past year I got the privilege of facilitating the larger group dialogue. So to be able to have students come up to me at the end and be like, thank you so much for putting this on, like that to me was like really important. But I also think it's just like another example of like students being given like the grunt work and doing this work without pay, just like a lot of different stuff, right? Which I think is like how a lot of people treat diversity work. Like when you're talking about issues of like race or any of that things, it's like there's no money, like monetary value there. So yes, it's a great thing, but I do think it's like, I don't know.
Now, obviously, this is a conversation that, you know, students are having amongst themselves. What kind of, you know, solutions are people talking about?
Right now, I think like a big topic on Villanova's campus, we're talking about space and just like the lack of space on campus for students of like marginalized groups. And just kind of like there is no sort of place where people can go and just like be that isn't like a 2x4 room, right?
Okay.
Well, you know, obviously we know that Villanova is not the only campus in the country that's dealing with these
Not
issues.
at all.
So when we
Not
come
at
back
all.
on 28 Days and Beyond, we'll delve deeper into this very topic.
Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We are still here with Madiah, and we're still talking about the diversity. Amari and I were talking a little bit about how many of these instances have been happening on campuses throughout the country. There was the incident at Hartford, and I've heard of incidents happening here at Villanova, at Cabrini. How do you feel as a student when you hear about some of these things that are happening to other students that are in your age, you know, in your age range, like throughout the country? How does that make you feel?
I mean, I think it's disheartening, right? Like it's like sad to like know that this is like what people are going through, right? And like obviously there's like microaggressions and things that people go through every day, but these more like deliberate acts of hatred, right? Like it's disheartening to hear about, but it's the reality of the world we live in today. So like as much as it sucks and as like terrible as it is, like and I'd rather know that kind of person is out there than just have them be hiding like behind a closet.
So you'd rather know that, you know, that type of person is out there. But one thing we do know is that this exists on these campuses and it has existed for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
Why would students elect to go to these places knowing that, you know, this is the environment that you're going into?
So I'm a big proponent of infiltrating spaces and this idea that I can't change anything that I'm not willing to walk like inside of. And So yeah, I can go on and on about Villanova and my experience here, but like I wouldn't be here if at the end of the day I didn't love this school and I didn't see like the work and like the potential that it has to be a place where I can be. And whether or not like in my 4 years here that I will ever feel like completely comfortable, like that's probably not going to happen. But like I feel like my job here is to make sure that like the feelings that I have about this university or the way that I was welcomed here is like not something that another student like me has to go through, right? So like that's where I see the hope at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying there because, you know, if all black and brown students just decided to go to, you know, schools that had only black and brown students, how are we actually functioning as we would in the real world? In the real world, everybody's kind of mixing and mingling. So I think that, you know, getting an education should be reflective, you know, of that.
But you know, at the same time, I mean, they say that a majority of PhD students who are black come from HBCUs, right, or a disproportionate amount, right? Which is to say that, you know, because that's an argument that when I was choosing between which school I would go to, they said, don't go to a HBCU because that doesn't reflect the real world, but that does reflect some people's real worlds. And then furthermore, students who come out of HBCUs have, you know, reported feeling a stronger sense of self-worth, a stronger sense of purpose and responsibility to their communities, as opposed to folks who are going to these other institutions being treated like, you know, trash, and then coming out feeling like they missed something, you know what I mean? And the reason that I asked this question the way that I have is because it would seem to me that these are 4 years, right? 4 or 5 years that you can't get back. So would you rather spend those 4 years doing something that, you know, would benefit you and your life, you know, goals and aspirations in the long run, or would you rather spend 4 or 5 years fighting against people who are not really going to change when it comes down to it?
See, I don't know. Like, I think Villanova has challenged me in ways that I can't imagine I would have been challenged elsewhere.
Okay.
And I mean, PWI is obviously, I'm pretty sure what you see is what you get across the board for the most part. But I think that me as an individual, I have grown a lot and have grown to like voice and care a lot more about my own identities and like who I am as a person than compared to how I did when I was in high school. Maybe that's just a developmental thing, but I think Villanova made me uncomfortable. From like the first day I stepped on this campus, I knew that like I had to grow confident in like who I was, right? Because no one else was just gonna give that to me.
Gotcha.
So in that sense, you feel like it's worth making that choice, that hard choice to be one of the minority here?
In some cases, I have bad days too, where I'm just like, why didn't I give it a better shot?
You're human. We all are.
I think there's like benefits to both sides of the coin, but like in my chance, I don't think I just didn't give enough thought to it.
Well, we thank you for coming on today and for sharing your story and for the work that you've been doing to help give people, you know, on this campus, and I'm sure you'll do it elsewhere, a voice and a feeling of belonging, because that's something that we all deserve and need. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this.
And we're back with 28 Days and Beyond. So, charisma.
Yes, that sounded so official. Charisma.
I mean, you know. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, what do we walk away with from this conversation?
I mean, I feel like deciding what, you know, institution you're going to go to further your education is a huge decision. No matter, you know, whether you decide to go to a university, you know, close to home, whether you decide to go across the country, whether you decide to study abroad, whether you decide to go to an HBCU, I think it's a huge decision. But ultimately, you know, it boils down to the individual, what they're looking for from, you know, a college experience. And honestly, I feel like going into the door, you really don't know what you're going to get no matter where you go.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, once you see what you're getting from that university, from there you can kind of figure out, you know, what you could do to make that experience better for you, what you can do to have those safe spaces that Madiah talked about, what you could do to help, you know, the folks that are coming in behind you have an easier time adjusting to where they are.
And I think that was really one of the powerful things about what Madiah said was, you know, she said, I'm, you know, for her personal mission was about infiltrating and transforming from the inside, which was her, you know, again, her personal, that's what she chose to do. But I think what you say is also important, that folks aren't exactly, you know, you're never 100% sure of what you're getting into. There are questions you wouldn't know to ask until you find yourself in that situation. But here's something I want to offer up.
Okay.
If you as a graduating high school student, you know, find it important that you want to make a contribution to your university campus, right? You want to improve the community in some way. Why would you not also consider bringing your gifts and talents to an HBCU that really would be grateful to receive those gifts and talents? You understand what I'm saying?
I do. And again, I feel like it's a personal choice, and I don't think if you decide to go to an HBCU, or rather you don't decide to do that, that you still don't have those options of bringing your voice forward.
Gotcha.
I feel like there's just a different reception of that voice. And, you know, even at HBCUs, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And coming in as a new student comes with its own set of challenges.
Maybe
Do you know what I mean?
You may not necessarily experience those same forms of racial discrimination, which you
Right.
may experience other things. And I'm certainly not trying to say, you know, we all need to go to HBCUs, but I'm
Right.
also not saying that we don't all need to
No,
go to HBCUs.
I think it's a decision that really needs to be thought out. I think, you know, visiting a wide array of schools and universities,
Right.
for me, that's how I made my decision. I made the decision of where I wanted to go once I visited a number of schools, got the feel for it, and felt like, okay, I could see myself walking to class here, seeing this every day, you
Yeah.
know? And that's kind of how I made my decision. And then once I got there, I could figure out, you know, how I was going to maneuver and figure out what things that I needed to feel safe, to feel included, and to feel welcomed at this place that still has me paying off student loans.
Hey, well, that's the next episode. But you know, one of the things that I think is encouraging is that from my experience with graduating high school students, they do seem to be aware about, you know, these issues and are making their decisions whether or not they want to take that on.
Absolutely.
And choosing accordingly. But as always, there's never enough time. This has been another episode of 28 Days and Beyond,
where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture. We'll see you next time.